everybody, it's Lyn from Lyn's Crafts, and I'm just coming by today to show you a quick tutorial on how I created this pendant right here. Alright, so I've got a little piece of transparent Primo accents, a piece of pearl Primo accents, and a piece of the red, the glittery red. Alright, so there's where we're going to start. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is, with my blade, is I'm going to chop this up. Just random, tiny little pieces. And normally I would make a bigger batch, but I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. Okay, and not so tiny that you can't recognize the pieces, but we want to try to keep them all the same size, or relatively. Okay, the transparent. And if your clay is softer, it'll mush together a little bit, but it'll all work out in the end. You can always throw your piece in the freezer for a minute. Okay. As you can see, the red is wanting to stick together a little bit more, even though it's a glitter clay. Red is usually a little stickier. Okay, so now we've got our three piles. What we want to do, spread them out a little bit. Kind of mix them like that. So we've got kind of an even sort of mix. And chop them again. And at this point, if you get to where you think there's not enough red, there's not enough of one color or another, you can add more. But I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to gather it together. At this point, you could do this in a Ziploc baggie and add more glitter if you wanted to. Alright. And this part is just completely random. You never know what it's going to look like. You're just going to keep working it back together. keep working it. Okay, now we're going to decide where we like it. Alright, I don't hate that. I really like that. Alright. All I'm doing is rolling it in my palms. And because we have a large amount, I'm going to cut it in half. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Take my acrylic block and just true up the sides just a little bit. Okay. Use it to smooth out my fingerprints a little bit, so I won't have as much sanding to do afterwards. Check the doming on the top to see if it's even. And it looks pretty good. Alright. Okay. Now, we're going to bake this. And even though it doesn't look anything like this stone, it's just the way it turns out. So I'm going to bake this and I'll be back. Okay, this is out of the oven, out of the cold water bath. I've got some white, just plain white Primo. And a lot of times on my tutorials you'll notice that the cabochon is glazed already. If if I'm working on a piece where I've already created the cabochon months before, years before, whatever, sometimes it will be glazed. That being said, what I wouldn't do is to glaze the stone right before you intend to rebake it, even the day before. I would probably do it a week before. Give the glaze time to cure before you bake it, and it's going to be less likely to bubble on you. But the better thing to do is just to not glaze it ahead of time. Alright, and this is not the way I normally would make a piece of jewelry. I normally would roll it out and cut out a circle and then do the outer edge treatment. But on this piece, because the outer edge treatment is just the faux lava effect, then I feel like I can get away with it. Alright. Alright. Now we're not going to worry about how uneven it is or anything like that, because that's just part of the charm of the faux lava technique. Okay. Oh, we need to decide on some jump rings first of all. Now, decide where your top is going to be. I kind of like that. Close to the back, but not all the way on the back. Cut a small slit. Find the gap in your jump ring, and normally what I would do is have everything ready. Okay. I just want to separate those ends just a little bit. That kind of gives it an anchor down inside the clay. And you're going to want to push it in about halfway. And then pull that clay back together again. We're going to do the other side the same way. Alrighty. And make sure it's directly across from each other. Alright. So there's what we've got so far. Now you're just going to start with your larger end of your ball tool and start making hammered dots. And you're going to continue to do this all the way around. It doesn't matter what size your ball tool is. You just have larger or smaller indentions. Now when you get to where your jump ring is, we'll do the front first. When you get to where your jump ring is, go all around it. Now there's no need to do the back unless you just want to. I'll save the back and put my initials and my name and the date. As you can see, it's a real simple technique. Okay. There's where we are so far. Real quick, because I said I would. I'm going to show you again how to make a bail out of a head pin. You're going to take the head pin and put it about centered on your pliers and choked up quite a bit where you're going to have a wider ring of your bail. Fold down and then cross the legs. Alright, so there's what we've got. Then I'll take that off, flip it up to the top, where the legs are crossing on top instead of underneath. And then cross them again. Okay, and then twist. And as you can see, I didn't have my pliers completely centered. And sometimes you'll get a head pin that the wire is thicker. Okay, so here's what we've got. I will clip off the head of the head pin. Now you don't want to clip off the two little ends because that's what's going to provide your anchor inside your piece to keep it from pulling back out. Okay? And I could have done that just as easy on this piece as to use the jump rings. Okay. So what I did next, that little head pin out of the head out of the way. Just pinch off a piece. Roll it out into a snake. Okay. Decide where you want the rose decoration to be. And I think I will go with this thicker side over here. And I'm going to start the thick end of the snake where it'll be hidden underneath there. Okay, something like that. Then let's take a look back at our original piece. As you can see, and then we're going to make another one down here. Sorry, I don't know why I get so quiet. Picked up some crud off my paper. Alright. Now again, we're going to start down here where it's going to be hidden. Alright, so we've got something like that. Okay. Excuse me, I don't know where that came from. Okay. So, what I'm going to do now is a couple of leaves. Just going to form a little sort of teardrop shape. And with your needle tool or whatever you use, we're just gonna make a couple of leaves and throw them down. Okay, there's one. And here's two. Now, to create the rose, and there's lots of tutorials out there. I've learned the technique from several different people, but I really liked Diev Draconia's tutorial. Really simple, really nice effect. So sorry about that. I know everybody can relate to one of those kind of mornings that makes you want to pull your hair out. That's what kind of morning I'm having. Alright, so I'm going to take a piece of clay and roll it into a log. Okay. Then I'm going to make some slices. Alright. For the center of the rose, you just want to make a little bud. Okay. Just like that. And then you're going to start mashing out your petals. And take your bud and roll it around. Roll the petal around the bud. And take the next one. And do the same thing. And so on and so forth. And sometimes they don't want to stick. As much as they do to your finger. So after you get the first two on, you're going to start building them up and overlapping the edges just a little bit, if you can get it to let go of your finger. Now, okay, I can see right there that my petal isn't offset enough. So I'm going to peel it back off. And grab a different one. Alright. There we go. My fingers are very sticky. So the petal wants to stick to me more than it does to the clay. Okay, let's do a couple more. Alright. And you can keep going at doing as many as you want. Alright, let's do one more, and then we'll call it good. Okay, I'm sorry if I was off frame. It's been that kind of morning. Alright, then we're just going to tease little points out. On the rose. Alright, now, normally if you've done it right, your rose will be much longer. I just happened to get lucky. But since I don't want it that, we'll squeeze the bottom together, we'll open up the petals at the top. Alright. Now we're going to see there's just no two ways around it. We need to cut the bottom off. Alright. Now this is the trickiest part, is trying to get the rose attached without disturbing the sculpting of the rose. Okay. So I hope you could see what I did. I went from the center and now I'm going to attempt to pull that down and get it to stick. All right. Okay. So there we've got that. Now I'm going to take a little bit and make a bud again. Okay. And then we're going to take and make 4 leaf shapes. 4 more buds. However you want to see it. But this is going to mostly be hidden, so beauty is not that relevant. Alright. And again, squeeze it at the bottom. And then we're going to cut it off again. Okay. Then we're going to position that well. I'm not sure the humidity could be higher with the clay less sticky. And I'm sorry, I have not been paying attention to whether I'm on frame or not. Okay. Okay. Now, 2 more little leaves. And these are going to be slightly bigger leaves. Or slightly thicker, I should say, leaves. Can you believe it? Alright, and then one more. Okay. And let's do one more. Just for the fun of it. So sorry, I feel like I should do the tutorial all over again because I don't know whether I was on frame or not. Alright. There we go. Now we're gonna bake it. Okay. Okay, here it is out of the oven. And one of the questions I get asked a lot about is what I use for glazing. What I use is this right here. This Rust-Oleum in tiny, tiny print. Ultimate polyurethane. And this is the gloss. And what you want to make sure that it says is soap and water cleanup. Because solvent-based products react with polymer clay. So you want to try to stay with water-based products. And there's another product on the market called Varathane. And in my area, the only way you can get Varathane is in a gallon size. And it's like $60. So that's why I go with the Rust-Oleum. It's a little different product, I'm sure, but comparable. So I want a soft brush. Just a soft, round brush. And I'm going to go around the edge first. And I'm going to go back and float across the surface. Now, let me see if I can get at an angle where you can see. Right there. There's a little air bubble. And another little air bubble. And another little air bubble. If you'll blow on the surface of the pendant, it usually will pop those bubbles. Now, I can see I've still got one right there. And I've got a little area right here where it's not floated as thick. Alright. And just that quick little breath of air will usually pop any of those bubbles, unless it's a particle. There we go. Alright. So as you can see, it's nice and smooth. And we did nothing as sanding on this piece. And of course this is just for demonstration purposes, just for the tutorial. But you can get away with it if you've worked your clay. If you've worked your clay good enough and worked your cabochon cabochon good enough. Alright. So there we go. I've gone ahead and with the other half of the piece that I made, I've made 2 dangles. One to dangle from it and one for it to dangle from. So we're just going to let this piece dry and then assemble it. So there we go. That's what I've got today, and I'll be back with more. I shall holler at y'all later. Bye now.